and welcome to Talking to Trish. And today we have on director of Namaka, which is on available on a lot of streaming platforms, including Tubi right now for free. Frank Merle, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
The first question I want to, of course, ask a couple of questions about Namaka. Where did the idea for the movie come from?
So the original idea for this movie wasn't had nothing to do with Hawaii or tropical goddesses. The first version of this movie was actually based on Greek mythology. I
Really?
I wanted to do a story that was just sort of an average guy who gets caught up in something otherworldly and something he doesn't understand and something that, speaks to emotions like love and loss and heartache and all that, but do it with a sort of a modern twist on mythology. So I wrote the original version of the screenplay was a lighthouse keeper actually, and it's just so different than how it turned out finally, which is really interesting. But it was a lighthouse keeper who, a beautiful young mysterious woman, washes up to shore. He nurses her back to health. They fall in love, and strange things start happening. And then I wrote that maybe several years ago now. And right when I finished the screenplay, and I was so super proud of it, Aquaman came out, the first Aquaman film. The,
Oh no!
the first 15 minutes of that movie was
I
essentially
know exactly what you're talking about.
essentially
Yeah.
exactly the same as the movie I'd written, and I was so depressed.
Oh my God.
I put the script in a drawer, and I thought I can never make this movie because people will think it's a ripoff of Aquaman. And then I happened to go on vacation to Hawaii. And while
Ah,
and while I was in Hawaii, I did some research on Hawaiian mythology, and I was delighted to find a lot of similarities, right? So, like,
right.
different mythology, and I talk about this in the movie, how different world religions or various cultures historically have a lot of these overlapping stories, or the concept of a siren exists in a lot of different uh, world stories. And so yeah, so I just did a down to the studs rewrite, and that's the movie that ended up becoming Namaka.
That's amazing because when you were describing the original script, I was like, man, that would make a good movie, but man, that sounds familiar.
Right, there you go. There you go.
So my next question would be, okay, so spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen the movie because I will be discussing spoilers. So if you just stop right here if you want to watch it.
And I love that. So, shameless plug now, right? It's
Right.
because before you finish, so I'm sure you're, very interested in finding out what happens in this movie, Namaka.
Exactly.
It's free on Tubi, like Trish said, or you can rent it on Prime or Fandango, YouTube even. And so you can go to namakamovie.com to find all the links. So I just wanted to throw that out there right now because you could pause this, watch the movie, and come back for the rest of this conversation.
Precisely. And by the way, I do need to get one of those shirts if they're still available
Absolutely,
because I
absolutely.
love the shirts. I love a
I,
Hawaiian shirt.
I had to do a tiki shirt with this movie, and
I'm
it's got Jamie Kennedy on there, and he has three pairs. He loves it.
amazing. So one of my questions was, how did before we discuss the spoilers, how did David Howard Thornton get involved in the film? Like what brought that about?
One of my favorite memories in a theater ever was opening night of Terrifier 2 because
Oh,
it
heck
was a
yes.
it was a packed audience of people who, some people this was their first Terrifier, other people knew what they were in for if they were fans of Terrifier 1, but there was so much hype leading up to that release, right? And
Hmm.
then every time Art the Clown was on screen, the audience just lost their minds. It,
Right.
and I think I was at like a 8 p.m. showing. It's Terrifier 2 is a long movie, right? So it's like 10:30 when the movie ends. And I swear there were people, maybe about a third of that audience said they looked to each other, like, you want to see it again? Like people were buying tickets for the next screening. that never happens, right?
Right.
And so I remember thinking this is a very special movie, first of all, but I gave a lot of the credit to whoever was behind that makeup,
Exactly.
because Art the Clown is just such an indelible character. And so, yeah, so I didn't know David Howard Thornton personally at all at the time, but I thought here's a very special actor, and I felt like we were witnessing the birth of the next Freddy Krueger, and so I wanted to find a part for him. I had the role that he plays. It's a small role in the script. He sort of is the harbinger of doom at the beginning of the movie, sort of setting things in motion. I had I this is sort of sad, but I had originally written that part for Tony Todd. So I had worked with Tony Todd 3 times, and
Wow.
and yeah, and I considered him a buddy. And so when so he was my good luck charm for a while. And so I was like, okay, if he's going to do a 1 day role in this movie, what would it be? And I sort of this was the character I came up with for Tony. By the time we were shooting this, he was, unable to work on this film, and so I was a big fan of David's. And so this is a long way of answering the question, is that I reached out with a very personal story about myself, and this movie is a passion project of mine, and it was just a timing and luck thing because he was filming Terrifier 3 at the time, and he just came in for us on an off day
Oh,
from
that's
Terrifier.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And at the time he hadn't yet done a lot of work, first of all with lines and then his own face. So
Right.
he liked having that opportunity, and I let him get creative with the character too.
I love when because I talked about this on Facebook. I love when he pops up before you see his face. They're like, "Who's this clown in the middle of the road?" And then you see David.
Yeah,
And that was
I
like,
have fun. I have fun with those
I
little.
see what you did there.
Yeah, I have fun with Easter eggs.
But I adore anytime there's a David cameo in anything because he absolutely just I don't want to say steals the scene, but he kind of does steal whatever scene he's in.
Absolutely. No, he's wonderful. But he's just so electric. And I mean, his movement, his characterization, he's so precise in what he does. And that's why everyone loves, I mean, Art the Clown, of course. But yes, I agree. Anytime he's in a movie, the movie's going to be better.
So,
And
you were
he's a great person.
he
Like he,
really is. And
yeah.
I've only had the pleasure of meeting him once. Um, I'm gonna try to meet him again at convention. One of my goals for the next year or two is to interview him at some point since
Mhm.
I'm kind of starting an interview thing.
Yeah.
Mostly to talk about Batman and the Joker because he's played the Joker in a short film and
Mhm.
he really wants to be the Joker in the cinematic universe. And I would love to talk about that with him because I think he's fantastic. But moving on, because I could ramble about him all day. Um, but you said you did get to work with Tony Todd, and I noticed that you've also got to work with some amazing actors, and I just wanted to know because I was doing research before I interviewed you,
I
and
appreciate that.
yeah, because I was like, I better actually like see the movie Namaka and then look at this stuff before I interview him.
Right.
So I had seen that one of the movies that you previously did, you worked with Malcolm McDowell and David Desmalchin, which is
Yep.
insane to get to work with, and then Tony Todd as well. Like that's crazy that you got to work with all these people. How did any of the actors being involved in your project, how did any of that come about?
it, it starts with a personal passion for name talent. And so some indie filmmakers don't even, first of all, some don't want to work with name talent. Others will say it's too complicated because the reality for independent filmmakers is they do have gatekeepers. It is difficult to get to actors. The joke that everyone's got a screenplay in their back pocket. So every time I go into a coffee shop in LA, if I see a star, I'm going to try to get them a screenplay, right? It doesn't work because they'll say, talk to my agent, and
Right.
the agent says, how much money? And if you can't offer the kind of money that Marvel can offer, they're not interested. And so that doesn't reflect on any one particular talent. It's just an overall statement about the business, right? And so,
Yeah.
and because it's so hard, I think a lot of, low budget indie filmmakers just sort of fall back on, well, we don't need names anyway, right? But
Hmm.
for me, it's like, when I was growing up, it was like, you're going to decide what movie to see on a Friday night. You're going to see that latest Bruce Willis movie, or whatever it is. Like it's names, like to me, that is the movies, right? And when you see a name in a movie, it gives you a little, it sort of vets the project. And there's so much content out there, and there's so much
Right.
competition for eyeballs. It is part of it is part of the marketing strategy to say, well, how are we going to sell this movie? Like, for example, The Employer, now that's the Malcolm McDowell movie I did. When
Right.
when we shot that movie, the working title was Death Method. Okay, and when we were in post production, we realized, well, how are we going to sell this movie? We're going to sell it as a Malcolm McDowell movie. So the title was changed to lean more into his character. Malcolm McDowell is the employer.
Employer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's no magic to, you asked how I get these names. Actors do want to, I they want to work on good projects. They want to and they want to connect with filmmakers who are passionate about them, right? And
Mm.
so, I am not offering any of these actors Marvel type money, but what I'm offering is a great experience, right? And so when I get that opportunity to either have coffee or a Zoom or a phone call with the talent, I like to think that I can help close the deal by being very passionate about what I do. So if the advice I would give to other filmmakers is if you're going to do this movie, be absolutely in love with this movie and that you are making, and the law of attraction will say people will come to you.
Exactly. I agree with all of that. And I think especially with the certain actors that I was saying that you've worked with, that, when you see certain people pop up in indie products, you know it's going to be good, even if their part is small. And it really does help vet the project, but it also is like uh David Dalsmachin, anytime he's in anything, I'm
Yep.
like, it's immediately better because he's consistently good in whatever he's in, and so is Malcolm McDowell, and so is Tony Todd.
Yep.
So it's just incredible that you've got to work with, as as well as David Howard Thornton, all these great actors. And um, I'm gonna ask a kind of deep question for a second. Is there anything? What are some things that you have learned working with all of these actors?
They they do not need the filmmaker to tell them how great they are. They get that enough. They
Mm,
actually the talent wants they in some ways they wish they all the one thing I've noticed they all have in common, they wish they could strip that away and just be an actor when they're on set.
right.
Okay.
That's
Now,
understandable. Yeah.
yeah. Now, if they go into a coffee shop and there's a long line and they'd rather skip the line, they like being celebrities. But what but it's something that I've noticed that I think a lot of times when the celebrity shows up on set, there's either the filmmaker is what is a starstruck or doesn't want to give notes, and there's a fine line about being respectful, right, and being acknowledging, like with Malcolm, he had 300 credits on IMDb, and I had to my one when I was working with him, but so it would have been really easy for me to just say, well, I know you know what you're doing, just sit there. But I remember like after the first take of the first scene I did with him, he turned to me and said, how was that? And I remember as a young filmmaker, he's asking me,
Right.
but then it had something had to click in my brain. Like, no, I'm the director, and so that actor-director relationship is the same whether you're working with an actor who it's their first movie or if you're working with a celebrity. And so sometimes, when you see like a big star, I don't want to name names, but I think you know who I'm talking about. There's some big stars will show up for like one scene in a movie and maybe they're not so good in that movie, or there's like they call that a paycheck, right? Oh, they did that for the paycheck, right?
Right.
it's never for the paycheck. They have enough money. They're not doing it for the money. If they need money, there's smarter ways to make money than acting. Acting is work. It
Hmm.
it they something happened behind the scenes. When one of your favorite actors shows up in a movie and they're lousy in that movie, there's something going on behind the scenes. Either somebody disrespected somebody, or the director was just too, the power dynamic was off to the extent that they didn't get directed. And that's,
Right.
and that's just my theory based on having seen this a bunch of times. So that's what I've learned from working with name talent is they want you to treat them like an actor.
Right. Like a normal person,
Exactly,
basically.
exactly. So that the work can get done.
Exactly. Okay, so going back to I went sideways for
Yeah,
ADD. I'm sorry, I went
yeah,
another
totally. I
direction
love
for a
it.
minute.
I love it.
But going back to Namaka,
Hmm.
I I don't I don't know if you wanted the audience to end up kind of hating the main character,
Sure.
but
I mean,
eventually I was like, you know what? Fuck this guy.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Uh,
say Alex makes a lot of mistakes, right? And
yeah.
and different people respond differently. Like one thing that I've really enjoyed about this movie and this process of releasing this film, we did a lot of Q&As when we did a 2-week theatrical run for this film, which was really fun. And so I get to go to a lot of screenings and talk to audiences after they've seen it. Some people feel very sorry for him, like, oh, this was a trap, he was set up. Other people are like, fuck this guy, right? And I think that, one thing I try to do is be truthful to human nature and set up all my characters, even the goddess, as somebody who's flawed and, makes mistakes like everybody, right? We're all only human. And so what I did is I did put him in a position where he gets terrible advice from the Jamie Kennedy character, right? And so he keeps running into this guy
Yeah.
who is like, oh, what was it? Avenue Q. There's the bad idea bears. Um, that's Jamie Kennedy. He just keeps egging him on to live his worst version of himself. And I think that character is doing it vicariously, right?
Right, because I do think, especially at the beginning, that Alex is he's a very likable character, but as soon as you kind of see how he's acting towards Namaka, you're like, oh no, because he has a wife, he's on
Yep.
vacation with his
Yep.
family, but it's like as soon as he gets the opportunity to go
Yep.
back there and
Yeah.
see her, and so my next question was, and I don't know if you'd want to answer this or not, but I know kind of near the end of the film, he tells Namaka like you kind of like put this spell on me. You put me under the spell. It's like it's your fault. And she tells him, "No, this was all you. I didn't do anything to you." Is that the truth, or was he truly under some kind of trance?
Oh, I think that it's totally fair to leave that up for interpretation. And I say that I've spent my whole career sort of paying attention to how other filmmakers answer these questions about elements in their movies that are ambiguous.
Right.
And I'm trying to think of other examples, or I know, weapons, right? People want to know, well,
Right,
okay,
right.
there's a lot of questions about, okay, she's a witch, but where does she come from? Or is she even human, right? That character. And I've heard the filmmaker give a very artful answer of saying that, of not answering the question. And so I think it's I think it's fair, like just to step away from answering the question and to talk more about the nature of film as art. Uh, my belief is that the filmmaker tells us, like, I could answer the question. I could answer the question in terms of, obviously I wrote all the characters, right?
Yeah.
But it's my philosophy that once the movie exists, every interpretation is correct. Like that,
Right.
you see what I mean? And so my genuine answer to that question is you should make that decision for yourself. Because because I think there's a lot of things like that in this movie, especially when you're dealing with fantasy, right? Like
Right.
there are magical elements in this movie. At one point, I wasn't convinced that any of this was actually happening. That this guy might have been going out into the woods and doing heroin and tripping out and imagining all of this, you know?
I
So
mean, that's definitely, I mean, that's a possibility.
yes, and I think it would be to say too that the character Namaka is just a metaphor for the other life that he could be having, or this
Right.
fantasy fulfillment. So like I put some things in there, like at the very beginning of the movie, he's watching this hula travelogue video about get when people are getting ready for vacation, where they go on YouTube and they watch stuff about where it is that they're going to go. And so what he's watching these girls do a dancing around and doing a hula dance, and then that sort of becomes a wish fulfillment thing for him, right? So
Right.
there's a lot of little things like that up to interpretation. So I want to say that I'm not dodging the question by answering it the way I did.
Right.
But back to this. But I love that element. I love that those two lines at the end of the movie where because he says he's under a spell. She says, "No, you're not under a spell. You made your own choices." What I will say is, I think um, most people can relate to a feeling of being under a spell
Right.
when you meet certain people.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we've all been there. And then I'm sort of just relating that back to this thing about all these different world cultures that all have some version of siren. And I think that ancient people were using their mythology or their storytelling to sort of explain away this feeling that we get when we are do not seem totally in control of our choices. Let me just put it that way. So
Yeah. And
that
I definitely think with what you said of being open to interpretation that it really could go either way because
yes.
like you said, I think that there's some part of Alex that doesn't want like a normal marriage and a normal life. Like he wants something else, but
Yeah.
at the same time, there's something about Namaka that is not normal or human. So it's like it definitely could go either way.
And I think it's very significant that he's having career issues, right? So he was in a band. The music is very important to him, or at least he claims it was very important to him. Although he
Hmm.
uses songwriting as his excuse for, stepping away from the family, right?
Exactly.
So back to him making a lot of bad decisions, but he's feeling unmoored in his life because the band broke up, right? So he gives that he has that story about how we were working at it for years, and then the lead singer went solo, and now he's successful. And I think that that's really affecting him, and he's looking for that his music had been a big part of his fulfillment, right?
Right.
And to see the lead singer of his former band now be successful, I think is really eating away at him. And so part of Namaka's seduction of him is, oh, I love your music so much. Play your music for me.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
was going to say that. So she's
Yeah.
yeah, so that definitely makes a lot of sense. So what do you think hopping to something else for a minute,
Mhm.
what do you think is your favorite genre of movies? Not just to, work on as a director, but to watch.
Yeah, I love a good horror film as long as it has a touch of comedy in it.
Right.
When a movie is too serious, too brutal, that turns me off. But man, like my favorite movie is Scream, like the Scream series. I
Hmm.
love Scream because they can be very, very serious. But then they have that little meta winky thing. We talked about Art the Clown. He's weirdly funny. I can't explain
Yeah.
why it's so funny to see him do what he does. I mean, he makes balloon animals out of
Yeah,
intestines, right?
it's just well, it's interesting, and I think it's more interesting the fact that he doesn't speak,
Right.
so, and being able to do all of these like
Yeah.
physical comedy and these crazy expressions, and it's just, I mean, it's honestly hilarious because it's like putting like an actual clown in these like in this horrible,
Yeah.
terrifying movie,
Yeah.
and I love it so much. So
Yeah.
definitely,
So
that's one of my favorites as well.
yeah, so it's a tone thing, right? So you don't,
Right.
so if just saying, oh, there's a horror movie, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much, right? There's so many flavors of horror, right? And
Yes.
it really runs the gambit. And so like, but I mentioned Weapons before because I really love that
I
film.
loved Weapons so much.
There's a handful of moments of
Oh, I
like
know.
really funny. I mean,
I
when
mean,
she's
especially the ending
yeah, but I
is,
was
yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I was thinking that there's that part where she says that she had to come and stay because, the parents have a touch of consumption, and the principal character said, "Oh, I guess I don't know what that is. I thought
Right.
that was something they got in on the Oregon Trail."
Right.
I'm like, this is hilarious.
Like yeah, we went to the theater to see that, and there were so many parts where people were genuinely scared because there
Yeah,
were some really well done jump
yeah,
scares in there, but also parts near the, different parts of the movie where people were just cracking up, especially the end where she's being chased by all the children. People in the audience were
yeah.
losing their
I
mind.
love, I mean, the scene horror with a audience and the fact, the fact that, theaters are back, right? The movies are back is really exciting. See Obsession and Backrooms, and it's really, Sinners last year, another huge
Oh,
hit.
yes. There's
And
been so many good ones these past, like this year and
yes,
last year. Oh my
yes. And,
gosh.
and so, but, sometimes that laughter is just a natural reaction to like, something so bizarre happening, right?
Right.
Like these kids running around. But Obsession's another one with a lot of funny, like weird, like
Right.
why is this funny? It shouldn't be
Right. It's
funny.
almost like sometimes in horror there's almost this kind of nervous laughter that happens because
Yes,
you're just like,
yes,
what the fuck is that? Like,
yes,
because you don't know how else to react. Obsession
yeah,
was one I actually just rewatched yesterday, and it's so good, but you're right, there's these very bizarre, like, what the hell is going on type stuff. But then it's so serious and like dark at so many different parts, but it's
yeah,
so well done. And
yeah,
that and Backrooms being like these original, interesting, having these like funny moments in there. I think I wasn't because I'm somewhat new to horror. I didn't start really getting into horror till I was an adult, and I wasn't sure how I felt about horror comedy, but now that's like my favorite thing now.
right, right.
So it's yeah, it's definitely we've had a lot of good movies this year. My next question is, since your favorite genre is horror and you were telling me some of your favorite horrors, what actually got you into directing?
I, I, the the short answer is DVD commentary tracks. When I was in high school, I'd watch a movie on DVD, and if I liked the movie, I'd immediately want to watch it again because if you rented a movie on Blockbuster, you had it for 3 days, right?
Right,
So, uh, man, I miss those commentary tracks. And just to sort of, I'm surprised with streaming the way it is. It's so easy to just add another track. You can have closed caption. We have that. It's the technology is there. I don't know why direct commentary tracks have not become normalized. When you watch
right,
why it is that they exist, but they're not common. They're not common on streaming. That's still thought of as a physical media bonus feature.
right.
That needs to change. Director commentary tracks need to come back
I
because
agree.
I never thought of myself like I never thought I could make movies. I loved movies my whole life. I just thought they were made by really fancy, special people, and I'm not that. I wasn't born so and so's kid. I was pretty cynical about the way the world worked in terms of nepotism, right? And that, I mean, that is I'm not trying to make Marvel movies, for example. And
Right.
the world does work the way I always suspected it did, right? The golden rule is whoever has the gold makes the rules, right?
Hmm.
But in the independent world, there's nobody who can tell me no, right? Like I can just start with, there's what was that thing? There was this was a lot of years ago now. There was a Craigslist challenge. Someone started with a pencil and he says, I'm going to turn this pencil into a car by trading, right? And this is what he did. So he just went on Craigslist. I'm sorry for, ADD. I'm also going to change the
No, no,
subject.
no. I'm with you.
This guy went on Craigslist. He said, I have a pencil. My goal is to get myself a car eventually. Who does anybody have anything they'd be willing to trade with me for this pencil? And then somebody came up with something that had slightly more value than the pencil. So that, yeah, I'll trade with you. And he kept trading
Until he
until
got to the car.
until he got a car, and he
Oh
got
my
him,
God.
and
That's crazy.
yeah, so he was able to turn a pencil into a car
That's crazy.
just with Craigslist posts. And so my point is to for somebody who dreams about making movies to say, but I don't have the money or I don't have the connections, right?
Hmm.
It's that the mentality of this guy who turned a pencil into a car, you really can, if you have enough passion for it, not sit back and wait. Because, back to, how I got to work with, name talent. There's a lot of name talent I've tried and haven't gotten, so
Yeah.
you have to have a tough skin. You have to take a lot of rejection, right? So that's part of it too. And you sometimes just have to will this stuff into existence. And it takes takes a lot of passion to do
Right.
that. So sorry, what was the question?
To be honest, I don't even know what the question was.
Yeah, I turn a pencil into a car, and you can do anything.
Right. No, I was
Yeah.
just I now I remember. I was just asking how you got into directing, but that pretty much answered my
Oh,
question.
but no, but those commentary tracks because they seem like normal people, right?
Right.
So it's like I would watch this movie and it seemed like magic. 2 hours of I don't know how they made that happen because I didn't go to film school, but you'd listen to a commentary track and they would I'd be like, oh, I think I could do that. So that gave me a lot of that sent me down the path, right? So
Right.
I just started reading everything I could on filmmaking and talking to people who were doing it and getting myself onto sets so that I could learn and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Okay, so I think maybe my last question would be going back to some of the people that you have worked with.
Mhm.
Are there any other people that you would love to work with if you got the opportunity? Or do you want to say?
I I again, I love actors. That's the thing is
Right.
I come from a theater background where I got to be very hands-on with actors. I love working with actors. I love getting under the hood with them and a role and a script and the challenge of how do we make the best version of this together. So so there's I'm not going to name one actor that oh, this is my favorite actor. I love actors, and so it's really the right person for the right role. So the joy for me, like when we were doing casting for Namaka, David Howard Thornton, I wanted him for that role. Jamie Kennedy, I wanted him for that role. But then the two Namaka and Alex, I did an open casting call, and I had hundreds of people submit for those two roles, and
And
I.
I do want to stop and say
Uh,
that they were both amazing in that.
Thank
They
you.
were both did such a great job.
And they had the chemistry and they were perfect.
Hmm.
But that was a long journey for me to discover those two because
Right.
I watched a ton of self tapes and then I whittled that down to maybe 20 or so that I asked for a second self tape with notes, right? So that we had a little bit of a virtual audition process. And then I whittled that down to about I want to say about 10 candidates for each of those two roles, and I brought them in for a live callback. And so then I was able to discover the perfect actor for each of those roles because I had something in my head, right? But then the actors will bring their own thing to the table. So to me, that's more, like the Malcolm was perfect for the employer. That was the person I wanted in that role. and and Dave DeSmulchen, perfect for his role. And so it's to me, it's not about a specific actor. It's about the joy, the joy of the discovery for me of when the right actor slips into the right role.
Gotcha.
That's very exciting for me.
So a kind of different version of that question would be like, what kind of movies do you think you want to make in the future? Like what?
I have so you asked me my favorite genre, and I've yet to actually make that type of movie, right? So Namaka is a fantasy, it's a dark
Right.
fantasy, and The Employer is much more a thriller. It's not a
Thriller,
horror
yeah.
film, and From Jennifer is more on the comedy side, in terms of horror and comedy. And so I have a script I'm working on now, and that I think is my horror magnum opus, right? It's like combines elements of Saw and Scream and Texas Chainsaw and
Oh,
puts a modern twist on it all. So I'm very excited about that one, and because I have such ambitions for that project. It's going to take longer. I need to get the right
right.
partners and find the money and not shortchange myself on that one. So I can't say too much about it, but
Right.
that is something I look forward to making my horror feature. Back when I was first learning the craft, I would make short films in different genres. It's just to sort of experiment for myself. When I would make a comedy short, I was very stressed out behind the scenes, right? We would,
Hmm.
because is this funny enough, and how can I make this funnier, right? So we would do a take, and I would say cut, and then we would do playback, and I'm standing there with the actors saying, well, can we make this funnier? Is this working? And if you don't have an audience there, you don't know if it's working or you don't know if it's funny. But when I tried a horror short, I had the opposite experience. You say cut, and everybody is high-fiving each other because, we knew it was working, right? And so,
Right.
yeah, I look forward to having that experience on a feature.
I'm very excited to see what this project is. And I know you said it would take a while, but like I love horror. I especially love all of the amazing indie horrors that I've seen. I've met so many people involved in the indie horror scene, and they're some of the most amazing, sweet, creative people. Honestly, I think some of the best stuff that we've had over the past couple of years have been indie horror. So I'm very excited to see what this year and the next couple of years brings us as far as that front. But
Agreed.
I hate to cut us short, but I am so, so, so thankful that you were able to come on for today. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on Namaka streaming everywhere and your success. I cannot wait to see what you come up with next. It's
Thank
very
you.
exciting. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, bye.